Michael Frank is watching with us. First one on, Bob Walker. A couple of new names, actually.
Nice.
Newish. Gordon Smith, good evening from Denmark. Tom Outamind. I wonder who that is. Tom Outamind. Cheers. Alan Long is watching. People signing on from across the globe. Warren Schosser down normally in Brisbane. Hi, Warren. Alan Long saying, hey.
Hey.
Julie Aaron's watching. Hello, Julie, normally from Cleveland, Ohio. Checking in on this Friday. Warren saying, morning, Tom and Julia. He is in Brisbane.
Mm-hmm.
Good place to be. There's summer. Michael Frank, I'm not that new. Well, Michael, apologies. Welcome. Tier DeYoung in SoCal. Trevor is in Columbus. Team Out of Mind as we're going to get this one. Show number, I should say, 591.
Get
off
close.
The dock.
2, 1.
Hi, welcome everybody. We are in the pink of life today. Julie came down here with a pink dress on, so I had to put my pink shirt on. You're bright pink, Julie. What the hell? Is spring here yet?
It's trying.
Trying. We are, once again, we are live from Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. I should once again, as usual, here in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. And it's a nice day outside, although I did hear the foghorns going earlier.
Yes.
What was that all about?
It was foggy at the coast.
Oh. Well, not here, not in my brain at least. I hope not. We'll see. But this is going to be an interesting show. Welcome to all of you. I'm your host, of course, Tom Eamon. Julia, my co-host, landlady, Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club. And yes, the Beach Street Yacht Club is the real thing. Delighted to have you all with us. Sound appears intermittent. Is that right? It's not showing here sound intermittent. Tier DeYoung. And I'm fine on my test. I have a phone that runs that has the show live. It's about 10 seconds delayed. Steve Gruber says, nope, not for me. So I think we're good to go. One can only hope. Let's get into it and hope you can clear up your sound. This is a new pre-start photo. Julie, you recognize the race committee boat yacht Defiant.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the Burgee on the, at least on the Patagonia, on the pullover of the lady on the right? Black and red. One of the few clubs in the country that has black and red Burgee because they were started by Princetonians.
Oh, yeah?
That is the Balboa Yacht Club in Newport Beach, California. Welcome, everybody, to the pre-start. I ran on my Facebook page yesterday this building, and the reason I ran it, Julia, I don't know if you know this building in Midtown Manhattan. I didn't know. I've been walking past this building since forever. I mean, it's just around the corner and 4 or 5 blocks up from 44th Street where New York Yacht Club is located. And I've been walking, past the building for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's called the Brill Building, and I didn't realize it until I was looking into the passing of the late, great
Burt Bacharach.
Exactly. The Brill Building in New York City, Midtown, Broadway, and 49th. And the Brill Building is famous for housing music industry offices and studios. I mean, I don't know if you call that Beaux Arts. Somebody will know that architecture style. Fabulous building. But music industry offices and studios where some of the most popular American songs are written. It is considered to have been the center of the American music industry that dominated the pop charts, other than the Beatles, in the early 1960s. The Brill name comes from believe it or not, a haberdasher who operated a store at street level and then bought the building.
Good for him.
He liked it so much, I bought the building. Remember those commercials, huh?
Yeah.
So he bought the building, and I said and I posted it on my Facebook page, and Pete, I put things up on my cover photo to challenge people. I said, anybody who could connect that to today's news, I think this was on Wednesday, and Reed Yeomans, Julia, our good friend,
right,
and Monday Lunch Bunch regular, said a lot of great music made there, including Burt Bacharach. And that's right. Bingo. Well done. And reportedly, this is where Mr. Bacharach met Dionne Warwick. Bill Wingrove chimed in. Luca Grove down in Auckland chimed in. And they, these people love music, and people are, especially our foes, are surprisingly, no, they're not even surprisingly, they are impressively erudite, and on not just sailing, but on many, many different
almost
topics.
Guaranteed that somebody listening will know the answer to any kind of strange or not so strange question.
Well, and if they don't, guess what?
They find out.
They Google it, because they're all so damn quick with their computers, sitting there with their computers.
Yeah.
Maybe watching it on their phone and doing work on their computer. So that Reed Yeomans gets the nod, the tip of the hat for that, and we'll get him a mug or something. But Mr. Bacharach passed away, Wednesday or earlier this week anyway.
Oh, he has aged.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a really good-looking photo. I don't know how
Yes.
old it is, but still, considering he was, closing
90.
in on 100. I think his birthday's in May, so he would have been 94.
Yeah.
Not quite 95.
Yeah.
But Burt Freeman Bacharach, as I see, May of 28, was an American composer, songwriter, record producer, and pianist, is widely regarded as one of the most important and influential figures of the 20th century popular music. He composed hundreds of you all know this, pop songs from the late 50s onwards, many in collaboration with lyricist Hal David.
Right.
The one thing that for them, you probably know this, Julia, the one thing that failed for them was they had an opera. They wrote a Broadway show, I should say, and it was a bust. But most everything else they did was famously good. Bacharach's music is characterized by unusual chord, which is why I like it. It's jazzy, influenced by his background in jazz harmony and uncommon selections of instruments for small orchestras. He arranged, conducted, and produced much of his recorded output. And I must say, I probably knew as many of his songs growing up, playing them on the guitar. Raindrops keep falling on my head.
Right.
What movie was that from? Butch
Cassidy and
and the Sundance
Kid.
It was rumored that Mr. Bacharach was a sailor, although I couldn't find that anywhere. We used to think he was a sailor, but who knows? What do I know? Comments are rolling in here. What's it all about? Alfie, Don Lunabos, greetings from Sonoma. Yep, Don, don't use Google. It's inaccurate, Luca Craig is saying. Burt Bacharach did. Yeah, he was in all the Austin Powers movies, wasn't he, David James? Weren't there, 3 Austin Powers movies? Yeah, he collaborated with Hal David. But I think the big thing was meeting Dionne Warwick there, and then they went on to, Dionne just went crazy with his stuff that he wrote for her.
They were a perfect combination.
The Botany Bay Championship, Andrew Dolly DeVoe. How you doing, Andrew? I know he's had a bout in the hospital. I hope you're doing better. Butch Cassidy, right? You're confusing Beaux Arts with Art Deco. Thank you, Baton Rouge. So that building is Art Deco, not Beaux Arts. Of course, the New York Yacht Club, early 1900s clubhouse is Beaux Arts. Maybe that's where I got that. While we're on music, I thought we should also, I posted this morning, having no thought that I would put this up today, but Peter Taylor got the reference. He said, "Are you in the mood for Sailing Illustrated today?" And that's not why I posted it. It was simply, and I wasn't even going to use it on this day in history, but it was on this day in history, February 10th, 1940, Glenn Miller's Infectious In the Mood tops U.S. pop charts.
How nice.
Da 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 da. Right?
Right.
Da, 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 da. Well, great stuff. Terrific stuff.
Yes.
Okay, here's what really this day is about. And do you recognize, Julia, the first clue? Because today is In the Mood was my mom's favorite song, Steve Gruber says. Yeah, Burt Bacharach had some songs with sailing lyrics. I think he was a bit of a sailor from what I hear. But what was the name of the sailing song while we're looking at this picture? Can you figure out what this is representative of what today is? Wasn't that Henry Mancini? Moon River, wider than a mile. 1914 edition of The Regatta, later called the Royal Regatta, that began in 1838. That's what today is. It's happening today, tomorrow, and Monday, in fact. You recognize that town? Here's your next clue. This is tangential, to be sure.
Yes.
Who is it? Actor
Errol
Errol
Flynn. Yeah.
Flynn, who was born in '09 and lived to the ripe old age of 50. He was born where this regatta is taking place, and I had no idea until putting this segment together. Ted Ryman's got it. Hobart.
Oh, good.
Exactly right. He was born in Hobart in 1909, and that, of course,
I
is your
didn't know
next
that.
clue. I did not either. Hobart's Constitution Dock, we're all familiar with it because it's the end point for the esteemed Rolex Sydney to Hobart yacht race in Tasmania. And it is on this day, in fact, this weekend, it's the 11th, 12th, 13th, Saturday. It's Saturday down there. Now the 11th, 12th, and 13th down under. The Royal Hobart Regatta is this weekend, and I had no idea, I'd never heard of it before, but it is a big deal. It's a series of aquatic competitions and displays held annually in Hobart and is Tasmania's oldest sporting event, according to Wikipedia. The regatta began in 1838, which is, 20 years before New York Yacht Club, or 10 years anyway, before New York Yacht Clubs got going. And of course, the Royal Cork and a few others, the Royal Thames, go way back before that, to say nothing of the Phoenicians, who had some regattas back in the day, 2,000 plus years ago. The event runs for 3 days and incorporates a public holiday observed at least in southern Tasmania on the second Monday in February. It is regularly well attended by the public, in addition to local and interstate competitors. I mean, it's a big deal. It's not just sailing, but it has all sorts of things we'll show you in a moment. The Royal Hobart Regatta, King one or the other, somebody of you will know, one of you will know. The Royal Hobart Regatta, I think it was in the 30s, when whoever was the king then of England gave it royal status. It has played host to 10 royal visits, the most notably being a visit from Queen Elizabeth II and the Prince Consort, Prince Philip, who was, of course, a big sailor. Philip spelled wrong, by the way, in this Wikipedia piece. In '63, when they arrived aboard the Royal Yacht Britannia. In preparation for the occasion, the main grandstand was extended and accommodated. Thank you, Julia. The royals who stayed for lunch before departing for Sydney in the late afternoon. And we have video from 1963. There is no audio, so we'll do a little voiceover. It's video courtesy of the Libraries Tasmania. And watch this lady's curtsy here for the Queen, for Her Majesty and Prince Consort. She was fantastic. You could almost see her panties. She was down. So
don't get excited.
Only Ted. Don't get excited. The Royal Hobart Regatta Association has been putting this thing on since 1838, and they have huge crowds, and not just sailing, but rowing and tug of war on shore, and lots of other games and concerts, and of course fireworks. The Aussies know how to party. This is the viewing stand again in '63, when Her Majesty, the late great Queen Elizabeth, were there. Now I can identify some of these boats, and hopefully you'll help me, but they're there to watch the yacht racing and the flyover before the yacht racing on the Derwent River. Those clearly are dragons in the river. And some other smaller boats, of course, more dragons, fabulous boats that they were, Olympic class, that a lot of people sailed. I only sailed them a couple times, but what great boats. Now, this next class, tell me what that is. Those bigger boats. In fact, you'll see more of them here in the next shot, or the same boats maybe. The big boats,
folk boats
right here,
and the bottom, it looks like.
What are these big boats, though? I've sent a screen grab of this to our friends in Oz this morning, to several of you, and nobody could really identify them. They look like meter boats to me. Maybe one of you will know what used to be, and maybe still are. James Bland says 6s, and that's what I was thinking. They were either 6s or 8s. Didn't look like enough crew to be 8s. And I think J. Frederick Bland is right. He is saying 6 meters. So perhaps, hopefully he is right, because that's what hopefully that's what I thought they were. They do look like meter boats, and what a grand event. I mean, it goes back again.
Yes.
Super 12s, Michael Frank. Thank you, Michael. And then they left on board a naval vessel, across the river, got to the plane, got to the airport, and went to Sydney for lunch, or for dinner anyway, after staying for lunch. Thanks to the Libraries Tasmania for this video from 63.
Nice.
So they're celebrating 185 years from the 11th through the 13th of February 2023. On the River Derwent, the Tasmania Royal Hobart Regatta from 1838 to 2023. I'd love to go down there for that sometime.
Yeah. I love Tasmania.
And watch that in person, wouldn't you?
Mm.
Do I see sharks? Sharks like the catamaran, stingrays? I don't know, stingray. Well, so much for all that. I'm pleased to report before we get into the show that on Tuesday, remember I told you this on last Tuesday, but on this coming Tuesday, the king of the ice boats, Ron Sherry from my home state of Michigan, Clinton Township, and multiple world champion, North American champion, so on, in particular in the DN class, he will be joining us. And not to talk so much about the tragedy that happened over last weekend, but just to talk about ice boating in general. Next Tuesday, Ron Sherry, delighted to have him on iceboatracing.com. And again, from my home state of Michigan. And he is the real deal, the guru, the king of ice boating. So look forward to having you with us for that when he'll be our live guest via Skype on Tuesday. Okay, let's get into the starting line. And as usual, we like to start with our friend. I've missed the cannon. Julia, I have to have the cannon. It's not the same. There we go.
There we go.
Without
Finally.
the cannon.
Yeah.
And of course, we know where that starting line, well, that was in December. I like that shot. And as usual, we like to start with our good friend John Emmett, with whom I was texting at length this morning. He's in Thailand, of course. His segment called Coach's Corner. He is at the Royal Varuna Yacht Club for the ILCA Masters, as we again told you on Tuesday. The Royal Varuna is a terrific club, a ton of members, thousands of members. They're a member of the ICOYC, the prestigious International Council of Yacht Clubs that we talk about from time to time. It has 4 member clubs from around the world. I'm sure many of your clubs are involved. And they trade information and best practices and good ideas. And that's really what their raison d'etre is, and a good organization they are. The RV, the Royal Varuna Yacht Club, is situated on a largely private beach on the Gulf of Thailand, southeast of Bangkok, and it has successfully hosted many international world championships and regional events in its 65-year history. I won't bore you with the rest of that, but just show you again where they are. They're just down the coast, southeast of Bangkok, which is up at the head of the Gulf of Thailand there. The drop pin is actually the yacht club. The RVYC, and that, of course, is where John Emmett is and where he reports in this morning.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. We have another windy day here at the Royal Varuna Yacht Club. It's day one of the ILCA 6 Masters World Championships. Glad to say my legs did actually hold up. It's probably windier now than when we raced. You probably hear or at least see quite a lot of sails flapping in the background. Hopefully that's not too distracting. And now we're going to talk about time to grow. Really important coaching concept. So the idea with W, whatever our options are, we have to have the will. So that might mean we have to go into debt to fund our campaign. It might mean that we have to really push ourselves physically in terms of gaining weight or losing weight to achieve what we want to do. And it's such an important thing. I remember when I was at university, we literally had no money, and I would sleep in my car to make sure I could do as many regattas as possible. And I looked around and we had Duncan Troswell, who now works for the BOA and was a previous REA youth manager. He would be there. Paul Goodison, I'm sure everybody knows of Goody. He would, sleep in his car at the qualifier events. He won Olympic gold medal in China. He's a triple Moth World champion, and he's now steering an America's Cup boat. But this making the sacrifice is so important, and that will to win. There's no point having the goals if you don't actually have the will to see them through. So that's the end of growing, and there'll be more from Thailand in the near future. Hopefully, have a great show. I'm not going to be joining you because of the time difference.
Yeah, when I said John checked in this morning, it would have been his nighttime in Thailand. And he's sailing that regatta, and it was breezy, as you heard him say, Julia.
Which is good.
And it is good, and they've had a terrific day of sailing, and I'm going to show you some of that here in a second. We'll go out of John's outro slide here. John Emmett Sailing, get to the front of the fleet. We appreciate his submissions for virtually every show, and he likes to say, Julia,
don't waste a minute. Like, follow, and share now so people can see the rest of the show.
Exactly. It's even better if you do it here at the top of the show, and that we appreciate that very much. Now, carrying on with this regatta, I want to say bravo Zulu to John and everybody else involved. It's a terrific event. They have over 100 boats. I think I counted up 105 boats on the result sheet today. And just to give you a little flavor for what's going on, they had the opening ceremony yesterday. Great photos by Matias Capizano. And Matias from Argentina, terrific sailor in his own right, as well as he's got a day job. He's a professional engineer of some sort, but he is really a good photographer. And this, I show this because we all say this on this show. This is what our sport, the competition on the water, the racing on the water, but you come back and have fun. This, of course, even before the regatta got started, they had a practice day yesterday and the opening ceremony last night. But look at the fun these people are having.
Right, it's the great smile.
And in another culture that maybe some have experienced before, probably the Aussies and Kiwis and people in that corner of the world more often than the rest of us. But what great stuff!
Mm-hmm.
Some more. Now I don't know who this gentleman is. He's got a UAE flag on his shirt sleeve, but he was in the featured in the ceremonies. And the Thai dolls or whatever they're called. Properly, formally, just, it looks like a lot of fun. Relax, yes. Low key, nothing fancy, but a lot of fun. This is the scene in front of the Royal Varuna Yacht Club this morning on day one before they went out yacht racing. And the start, there are 4 starts with 5 divisions. The legends, because of the bigger fleets, Legends, Great Grandmasters, and Grandmasters are starting will have their own start. And then the Apprentices and the Masters are smaller divisions, and they are starting together, according to John. And John issued this report for the Greater ILCA for the laser class also today.
Hi, I'm John Emmett. It's day one of the ILCA 6 Masters World Championships here at the Royal Varuna Yacht Club. Fantastic day sailing, 5 more to come. It's a 6-day championship with a lay day in the middle. And that lay day is very important. Not reserve day, it's a day to have a bit of holiday. And after this, it's 2 championships back to back with the ILCA 7s following shortly after. Fantastic venue, lots of happy people, and lots more sailing to come. So to my right, I have an Olympian who absolutely dominated racing today, one of the youngest competitors here. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background.
I'm Victoria Andrulita from Lithuania, and
I'm so glad you said that.
yes. From Lithuania, and I'm sailing ILCA 6 class for already like 15 years, I think.
And you had a really good day today. Just tell the folks at home what they're missing.
What do you mean? We're missing what?
The conditions.
Oh no, the conditions were amazing today. We have a brilliant, nice wind. Like it was picking up in the later of the day, and I was really enjoying the conditions. We have a current in the beginning, which was like a bit more interesting to sail, I think, and then the current was like quite zero as we had a low tide. And yeah, I was sailing against the master fleets. I was actually really hoping to win the races, which I did. And I mean, this is the conditions that I love. As the wind picked up, the downwinds were my, I think, key point to win the second race. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun to sail against these people. They are really enjoying sailing, and it's like makes you, in this senior fleet, we are kind of like really working a lot, and like we sometimes lose, I think, the joy of sailing. So this is like a good opportunity for me also to come back and like
have some fun.
And always remember that it's also hard working, but it's also the fun. Like,
well, we're really, really pleased to have you here, and have a wonderful rest of your regatta.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. That was a fabulous video. Alan Long says so. Gordon
Yes.
Smith says so. Julie, you like that?
Absolutely.
And, you know, Stingray's getting better and better. The quality of his video and the audio, but just his content is so good, and we appreciate everything he does. I say this every show, I think. But Steve Gruber, look at this comment. You one just spent the whole day by yourself on an ILCA. To the bar we go. A lot of that. David Bray is watching. I'm seeing a lot of people on here, Julia, that we don't normally see. I don't know why, but yeah, Ed Worley agreeing it's a nice video. David Bray, welcome to you. John Albert Collings, Maria Adela, there's a new name. Robert Wilson, many people on here. Welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us for this show number 591. We do this every Tuesday and Friday. And it's really a family of people. We call them the FOSI, the Friends of Sailing Illustrated, from around the world, literally.
Yes.
And again, this is just a terrific video by our good friend John Emmett. Now, I want to go to this photo. I don't want to replay that video, but replay this photo. Do a video of John. Picture, not a video of John. In fact, what I was going to say, if whoever was that guy that walked behind John in the first video with a hose, if anyone knows who that is, I'd pay him real money to turn that hose on John next time he walks behind him and be a hoser. Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, yeah. No, that's not fair to him.
Oh, it'd be hilarious, just as long as he doesn't get his camera equipment. That wouldn't be.
No.
So look, you probably saw John in that second video, which I agree was a fabulous. His sail number is, I wrote it down, 216115 GBR, of course. That is John. And I asked him, how'd you do? He said, well, you know, so far so good. Sea breeze for the next 2 days, then the day off, and the second half of the week looks more difficult, meaning it's going to be lighter and a little more challenging, he thought. So he didn't tell me, and he didn't say on any of these videos how he did, but I'm going to tell you how he did because I went and looked it up in the results, but not before we show you John. A couple more shots. Those of you who have sailed lasers know, you recognize, see, Julia, he's holding the tiller extension behind his back.
Yes.
And cross-sheeting, his left arm is holding the main sheet, left hand, when normally it would be the other. You'd normally, when you're sailing for some time, the tiller extension would be in your aft hand in this one, and you'd be trimming the main sheet. But he's just tacked, showing here very good technique from just tacking. And when you tack, you cross like that, and you pivot in the boat. You end up with your tiller hand behind you, and then pull that sheet over this sheet over your thigh, grab the tiller extension, and then once you've done that, you transfer the sheet up to your other hand. And that's proper tacking technique. And John's demonstrating it here perfectly. In fact, here he's now just about to make that transfer. He's sheeting in, hiking out, and a big, strong boy. Look at his thighs.
Wow.
You know, this is hard work for an old guy. He's not that old.
Yeah.
Big fleet of boats. John today had 2 bullets.
Ah,
first and first. He's Alexandro Montanari from Italia is hot in pursuit. And as Carlos Avis said, the Brazilians are having a good day. Fabio Suyama Ramos with a fifth and a second in John's division. So in the Master Fleet, bravo salute to John with 2 firsts. It looks like he will go on to have a good regatta, if not another win. He's been very tough to beat in that Masters Fleet for these now many years. I think he's won it, 3 or 4 or 5 times, Julia?
Yeah, I can't remember, but it's a spectacular record.
It is. Now, Julia, do you know who this is? He's obviously an American. You recognize that gentleman? He's a member of our club. And he's sitting atop the Legend Fleet, the oldest group. That is John Andron. Jonathan Andron. We know him as John Andron here from St. Francis Yacht Club. He's had a 3rd and a 6th. And Jacques Carest has had a 1st and a 7th. And that Japanese gentleman, Shigeo Kato, is on a 4th and a 4th. So they're having a good battle in that division as well. Bravo salute to John Andron. And I texted that, Julia, this morning, to that picture and the result to our Commodore.
Oh, good.
Whom I had a long chat at the bar last night, actually. Went over there for a bite to eat. My beloved mother, Janice Davis, is saying, I'm glad he's so good. No, Andron had a pair of 3s, Clark Chapin is saying. Did he? Did I misstate that? Oh, thank you, Clark. What did I say he had? Yeah, he had a pair of 3s. And John had a pair of bullets. So thank you, Clark Chapin, for that. What else is Clark always?
Yes, he's good.
Always checking up.
Yeah.
Flatter, John. Flatter, James Bland is saying. Good technique, Clark Chapin saying, but it makes my shoulders hurt just watching him. Pindar is in the house. Andrew saying, just home from a busy 3 days in Switzerland. Switzerland, such a paradox. It's a sailing powerhouse country. Well, it's a great country on many fronts. Now, this was my favorite photo of all of them. I don't know how this guy is breathing. You see, he poked some holes in his mask,
right,
so he can mouth breathe. Doesn't look like he's nose breathing. Maybe he is. That looks challenging to me. But my favorite photo, I know who the gentleman is, but it looks good. Well, a lot of sun, of course. This looks like hard work when they come in at night. You see these guys looks like this is such a well-organized, they're in deepish water, not too far off the beach.
right.
And it looks like they have a retrieval group of young guys that are there helping the sailors come in, get them on their trolleys, and get them up there.
Oh, that's nice.
So that is nice. Nice feature. I thought that was an interesting thing to see at this regatta. These photos, again, courtesy of Matias Capizano from Argentina. If you're wondering who he is, we use a lot of his stuff just because he's had a lot of regattas. Matias was born in Mar del Plata in 73. He started sailing at age 7 in the Opti class and then laser and J24s. He's participated, he says, in many J Worlds, including, and he's done a Pan American Games and several international match racing. I've met him once or twice at match racing regattas. Don't know him well by any means. He's an industrial designer. So he has a day job by profession, but his passion for sailing and photography drove me to capture through photography the spectacle of sailing in all its forms. Since 1998, I have covered sailing regattas around the world, from Optimus to the Olympic Games, London 2012 and Rio 2016. We celebrate people like that. The journalists are great. The photographers and videographers even better. And thank you, Matthias, for your work. Julia, don't you think that's just fabulous stuff?
Yes. Yes. And it is his passion that leads it.
Exactly. You know, a lot of this comment these days, he used to say, well, follow your passion, you're a young kid and they say, well, what should I do? And people used to say, well, follow your passion, go for whatever job. Well, you follow your passion, you might not make any money, and that's not so good. I think you have to follow what you're good at. Figure out what you're good. You're the headhunter. You tell me.
Yeah.
Follow what you're good at. And then once you've got a good paying job and it's something you're good at and it's not something you hate, hopefully, but then if your passion is separate from that, then go out and do it. Have a side gig or a day,
a day job.
Well, not a day job, but have a side gig.
Yeah.
like obviously Matthias does. So bravo Zulu to him. And that gets us to our main story of the day, which was this bad day at the office for Sir Ben and co. on Wednesday when they capsized not once but twice and then had a fire on the way in back to the dock when one of their batteries overheated and caught fire. This is Palma de Mallorca, according to Tip and Shaft, that came out again today. They come out on Fridays with their free newsletter. I commend it to you. And Palma, where they're training, where the Ineos Britannia Challenges T6 test boat, that's what they call it, T6, for the 37th America's Cup, capsized during a training session in 18 knots of wind before turning over completely, before turtling, requiring more than 2 hours to sort it out, and we'll show you the video. A fire broke out when the lithium batteries came into contact with the water, but it was quickly brought under control.
Now, why would that happen?
Well, actually, coincidentally, I was talking with our Commodore, Bo Froelich, last night, who's a tech guy here from the Bay Area, and his close friend, our good friend, Stan Honey, has just apparently, and I got to get a hold of Stan. If you're watching, Stan, ping me. I'm going to get him to come on and talk about this, because Stan has apparently designed batteries now, being the Renaissance super bright guy that he is, designed batteries that will not catch on fire. And the reason they do is that these lithium batteries get wet, and in salt water at least, salt water is highly conductive. And so these things are buried in the water, and they're supposed to be sealed, and maybe everybody says, oh, we'll never get them wet. Well, they get wet. This boat not only capsized, but then we'll show the video, and then it capsized again, the other direction, and then it turtled. It went all the way, the mast filled up with water, the foils were off and not in the proper position. Boats that are not supposed to turtle, boats are supposed to be self-righting. Remember when Grant Dalton said that about these monohulls, foiling monohulls? Yeah, right. They're supposed to come right back up. Well, that's not the case. In any event, I digress. The batteries and Clark Chapin and some of the other Stingray and some of the other eggheads on you will know as well or better than I that when they get into salt water, there is then a short, essentially, in layman's terms, across the battery, the poles of the battery, and the battery heats up, and if it really heats up, it catches fire, which these, at least one or two of them did. And, normally it's in water, underwater, so the water puts the battery out, but remember, things can catch on fire underwater, too, as you probably all know.
There's a shortage of lithium, so maybe we better think about some other way.
Well, apparently Stan Honey's got a lithium something battery. Commodore Froelich was telling me last night. So we'll get to Stan. Apparently they're a little heavier than these straight-on lithium batteries. And, of course, nobody wants a heavier battery in their boat. But if everybody has to use a heavier battery, then it's not it doesn't penalize you, penalize your performance. So there it is after they turtled. And who would have thought that these boats would ever turtle? But apparently when they went underwater, the instrument, the controls, the electronics froze up, and they couldn't, and they didn't go back to their nominal position. You'll hear Ben talk about that in the tape in a minute. But indeed challenging, difficult day at the office.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm just looking through any comments before.
The forward hatch was removed when the crew was trying to right the boat.
Oh, is that right? Who says that?
Ed Worley.
Ed Worley said that. Okay, Ed, thank you for that. My mother's asking, why aren't you still sailing small boats? I figured you'd do it until you died. No, I'm still sailing small boats, only there at our home lake, Mom. Correct, Tom. Pay the bills and then follow your passion if plan A doesn't work out. That's James Frederick Bland. Yeah, Stingray, we're going to talk about that story that was on Reuters, supposedly. It really wasn't, but we'll get that at the end of this segment. Lithium is a highly combustible in water, James Frederick Bland. Remember, Julia, James Bland went to Annapolis, was a senior serious Navy. He was a commander or something.
Yeah.
Higher up in our Navy, and he commanded, I don't know if he commanded subs, nuclear subs, but he's a senior serious guy and an engineer of some repute, apparently. We got to get James on here. Lithium is highly combustible in water. He is an ACS. What's ACS, I wonder? Certified chemistry major. My
American-
mother's saying, yeah, maybe, God forbid, Mom, someone has to die before. James, Janice Davis, Chris Exley, hi to you. Yeah, there's Ed Worley's comment about the forward hatch being removed. Yeah, in vehicle engineering, Clark Chapin says we were taught not to use the F word, but instead call it a sudden, unexpected thermal event, meaning don't call it a fire.
Yes.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. I thought lithium was unstable in air. American Chemical Society, ACS. Okay. Well, there they are upside down, and this is not supposed to happen. And without going into a diatribe, these boats are not correct. They've never been correct. We're seeing all sorts of problems, whether it was the American Magic problem in the last Cup. This is not proper yacht racing. I hope no one gets hurt. God forbid anyone gets hurt. I doubt anyone will because the teams are so professional and so good now. But the idea of sailing this type of boat, totally unrelatable to the sailing that 99% of the rest of us do, including the moth sailors, basically, including the moth sailors.
Yeah.
Barely relatable. Maybe they are, maybe one or two others. And yeah, is it high tech? Yes. But is it above and beyond? Is it hurting the sport? Is it hurting the television coverage? Is it hurting the America's Cup? This America's Cup's turning into a Shiza show of magnificent proportions,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
And this is not good for the sport.
Two comments. David James say, here's an idea. Have rowers on coffee grinders.
Yeah, right.
And Chris actually says they had to slice the main.
Yeah, the main sheet to get it up right. Or maybe it was the mainsail itself. My mother says her vacuum has a lithium battery. Well, Mom, I hope you are not running that.
In your bathroom.
Yeah, in your bathtub. And her bathtub's still not salt water. Graham Sweeney, the designs are driven to these extremes by creating a media show, not a sailing race. Well said, Graham Sweeney.
Yes.
And it's not even a media show. I swear to God, people want to see. I put that picture of the IACC boat up the other day.
Yeah.
Some people thought it was a 12-meter. It was the successor class to the 12s, the IA International America's Cup class. It was one of our Oracle boats. And I put it up. I'm not even sure why. Somebody made a comment about those big, beautiful. I know, because Tom Slingsby had said, he'd been asked in the interview that he sat for with somebody.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite class? He said the IACC boats.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Slingsby.
Yes.
You know, multiple Moth champion, America's Cup helm, and so on.
Right.
People want to see that kind of racing.
Yes.
Not this Shiza show that we're seeing with this. It's relatable. I think, Graham Sweeney, you're right, but I think the media is better if we have a class of boats that is more relatable. David James saying, actually, this is probably the best way to get on TV. I doubt it. David, I sincerely doubt it. Ken Saban in Toledo, that boat is wrong altogether. Lots of trouble with getting it from bow down, stern down, yes. And Ed Worley saying with the computer controls locked up, the foils and the sail controls could not be moved. Yeah, and it caused the second capsize and made recovering the yacht very difficult. This is, I mean, notwithstanding the venue being outside of New Zealand, which is the first disaster, these boats are simply not correct, and I don't think people are going to relate to them. I don't think the television is going to be any bigger than it's going to be less big than it's ever been. And Chris, actually, I agree with your comment, a more relatable and more reliable class.
Yeah.
Is what we need. Indeed. Okay, so there they were. They got back home, got the boat out. This is so reminiscent of American Magic during the Cup last time. Sad. And here is the video from Sir Ben back on shore.
And a difficult day for the team, a big capsize and a long job of getting the boat back in. Can you tell us first of all about the capsize? What went wrong?
Yeah, it was a tough day in the end. We started off really well, some great conditions out there and getting out in some big sea state. And then we went into a turn up and we just got a little bit bow up, a little bit heeled, and we had a bit of a slam down. And I think something happened with the systems on board in the slam down. We then couldn't ease the sails. So we did a full heeled over and capsized. And then we did an okay job of getting the boat initially back upright, but then just with the communications on board to the chase boat, we weren't able to get the bow of the boat back back into the wind, so we went over a second time, and that's when we really started getting issues in terms of getting water on board the boat. The boat then went turtle, which is a big issue in these boats. And so there was a moment there where, it was just making sure we didn't lose the whole thing. But the guy, the team did a brilliant job, both on the yacht and on the chase boats, and trying to coordinate the whole thing. So we salvaged, I think, the best we could, finally got the boat upright, and then to cap it off, we had some major issues with the batteries, the lithium batteries, setting alight, which was the final bit of carnage for the day. But again, the team dealt with that. So we've got the boat back, obviously, probably in the best shape we could have considering when turtle, and we'll regroup and have a look at what caused it, what the issues are. The only positive is that we were about to go into an upgrade window anyway, so I guess if this was going to happen, it's not a bad time.
It's obviously very early to talk about the state of the boat, but is this like a major issue for the boat in terms of the systems on board?
Yeah, certainly for systems on board, of course, they don't respond that well to being submerged for over an hour. So we'll have to gut a lot of that. The good thing is the IP and the software is there, if you like. It's just getting the hardware replaced. Like I said, we're just about to go into an upgrade window for a couple of weeks. So, our target will be to get those replacements done for the end of that upgrade window.
If there's a positive, it's got to be the way that the overall team dealt with it. We were on hand to witness it pretty closely. I was super impressed with how everybody communicated, how quickly pumps were on board, and you were right in the thick of it.
Yeah, well, you guys helped us out a lot, so thanks. We appreciate it. You definitely played your part. The team did a brilliant job. I mean, we sort of train for these things, but until it actually happens, you're never quite sure. And that's the first capsize we've had, full turtle in these boats. So plenty of learnings for us, and I'm sure for the other teams watching. And we'll take it on the chin and come back from it.
All right, Ben, thanks for talking to us.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it, Ben. Thanks.
Okay, a couple of observations. First of all, I was really impressed with Ben's forthrightness and telling the whole deal, explaining it clearly. And of course, when you've got these spy programs now, you got the America's Cup 37 right there with their cameras, and I can't remember the guy's name who's this guy running the British recon on behalf of AC-37. Tom Morris told me his name, and we're going to see Tom Morris's analysis here in a second. A couple of you don't agree with me, and Ben is a class act, Ed Worley. I agree with you. A couple of you don't agree with me and think that this will all come good. Gordon Smith is one, and the other is, who was the other that said, I think it was Ted Ryman.
Yeah.
Where's Ryman's comment?
Let's a little bit before.
Yeah, well, Ted, remember, Ted also drives Harley motorcycles, and he's if it's not fast and exciting, he's not in favor.
Yeah, Ted said it's now part and parcel of sailing. They'll get it right eventually.
Well, I hope he's right. I don't think they'll get it right, Ted. I'm sorry. I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think it helps with television at all. But I don't agree, Tom. Yep. Ted Ryman saying, okay, fair enough. That's why we have comments on here, and we see what people say. Luca Craig is asking, why have they not been using their AC-40? Luca, I'm not sure. I'm not sure they have an AC-40. I think this is their LEQ12, which means less than or equal to 12 meters, 40 feet, 39.37 feet. And this is a bespoke built boat, like Luna Rosa has. And remember, ETNZ now have, do they have LEQ12s, or do they have, I think the Kiwis have two AC-40s. What are AC-40s? What's the difference between an AC-40 and an LEQ12? AC-40s are one design boats being built in a factory in where? Up in the North Shore someplace right? North Shore or they're being built in China. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
And their one design boats are going to be used in the Women's and the Youth America's Cups. and they can be used. They're supposed to, each team is supposed to buy one for training purposes as well as for use by their eventual Women's and Youth America's Cup teams. You're going to sail these boats in fleet racing with kids? Okay, that's the AC-40s. And I think what happened is that the Kiwis, there was some deal between the Kiwis and the Brits, and the Kiwis got the Brits AC-40, the one that was supposed to go to them as Challenger record. And that's how the Kiwis ended up with 2 of these AC-40s to do 2-boat testing. They just christened that second AC-40 Te Kahati, I think it's whatever it's called. We'll show you the christening video in a minute. It's called, it means the orca or the killer whale. But I think that's what's happened. I don't think, I could be wrong, Luca Craig, but I think the Brits don't have an AC-40 in the shed. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I think their AC-40 so far has gone to the Kiwis as their second boat. How much of the team saving now, Ed Worley's asking? Yeah, David James, he said, yeah, I misunderstood his comment. This is not a way to get sailors watching. Yeah, it's a way to get on the nightly news. Well, interestingly, and I was talking with Stingray about this, there's been very little mainstream coverage of this in the UK for some reason. When the boat slammed down the wave, the computers locked up and disaster followed, Ed Worley is saying. And Gordon Smith also doesn't agree. He thinks that this is just one of the amazing ways that sail sport is developing. I also happen to think that Ineos test bed boat looks fantastic.
And he also thinks that ETNZ has both an AC-40 and an LEQ12.
Maybe. I think those boats are identical. Justin Chisholm is the recon guy in Palma. Yeah, Stingray in Palma, but there's another guy who's there's another guy in, well, okay, maybe it is Justin. These boats are technically excellent, but that has created a sterile, hard-nosed carbon skimmer. There is no grace. It looks so... Okay, Graham Sweeney, who's a real classicist, he doesn't like the look of the boat. What else?
Gladwell says Brits have taken delivery of their first AC-40 and are expected to have 2.
Okay. Is Gladwell on here?
Just now.
Okay, good. Thank you, Richard. We got to get Richard back on here. I need to get him on to catch us up on some of this stuff. Good stuff. Gordon Smith says, yes, ETNZ have an AC-40 and an LEQ12. TNZ only have AC-40s built in China, Ed Worley. Yeah, I think that's right, Ed Worley. McConaughey, and with a G in there, in China, Steve Gruber, yep. The Ineos AC-40 did get delivered to them, the second build. This is Stingray. Rumors say it arrived from McConaughey in China with delamination problems in the hull. Yeah, I went and looked at ETNZ's AC-40s yesterday for the first time, and they are so small. Luke Craig saying lots of comments. There's Gladwell's comment that you read, Julia. Yeah. And Brits have taken delivery of their first AC-40. Okay. David James, would you watch your wife or kids sailing one of these? Julia?
It's not my problem.
It is your problem. You're a commentator. Here you go. Bland James Frederick said, in the Navy, I graduated from, he didn't put this in the main comments, but he graduated in the top 10 of his class. Apparently, he's a bright boy. I just say that. Okay, let's go back. This is another, this is a screen grab from the video when they brought the battery up on the hard. The battery had already caught fire and had already been put out, but this is the team's proper procedures. They're very professional, and I suspect all the teams are, and you've got to be impressed by how well this was handled. There's the batteries afterwards up on the hard. And I will say this, that before we run Tom Morris's video, Mozzie Sales, I don't think, some people said, okay, that's the end of the Brits, that's the end of Sir Ben's campaign, they're all screwed up now. I don't think that's true at all. These challenges do have a way sometimes of bringing the team together, of focusing their energy and their attention and really helping them, Julia, rise to the occasion. Mm-hmm. We saw that here when Oracle Team USA flipped the trimaran out here in the bay in late 2012, wasn't it? Or was it early 2012? But in any event, that boat got flipped. It was basically wrecked. The new boat still wasn't ready to come out of the second boat. we had a big harangue in the team. Everybody was upset, and everybody was worried that that was the end of our campaign. And all it did was really focus the minds and the attention of everybody in the campaign. And we came out arguably stronger for it. Yeah, we lost a lot of sailing time. Ben is going to lose some sailing time. Who knows how their sponsors and how their boss is going to feel, Mr. Ineos is going to feel about all this. But I suspect they will come out stronger, just knowing Ben and a lot of the guys and gals on that team. These batteries maybe will get improved for everybody. And
or replaced.
Well, improved or replaced. I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
Improved, you're right, Julie. Improved or replaced. Ed Worley saying Ineos will recover. They have a lot of very talented sailors. I agree, Ed. Okay, looks like a pizza delivery. Richard, I believe Ineos ordered only one AC40, El Luna Rosa 2. I don't know what's going on. That's why we got to get Gladwell on here and really fill us in. Clark Chapin. Yeah, this is an interesting point. Clark, the U.S. Sailing just had their big sailing leadership forum in Florida last week, and he said, I didn't hear a single, and Clark's a senior serious guy in U.S. Sailing, single conversation about the America's Cup among the 500 plus attendees. There was some discussion about how Sail GP was using GPS for judging and race management, but crickets about the Cup.
Mm-hmm. That's ought to tell us something.
And I have a feeling that is true. Okay, I have a feeling it's Luca Craig. I wonder if they had the required buoyancy in the mast. They must have, Luca. They must have. Okay, let's get off the batteries. Now, this next video is the guy we've talked about on and off for the last few months. In fact, maybe for the last year. He started producing YouTube videos during the Cup in Auckland. His name is Tom Morris. I've not talked to him. I don't think we've actually met, but he's a cool guy by all accounts. John knows him well. I think Andrew knows him, both Andrew Pindar and Emmett, McIrvin and Pindar. And I've traded emails now with Tom asking permission to use his very good video posted yesterday. In fact, just late yesterday. And it's a long one. I'm not sure I'll play the whole thing, but he really goes into a detailed analysis of what happened when they flipped and then why they capsized the second time, etc. Tom Morris, Mozzie Sails on his YouTube channel. Have a look.
Did Ben just contribute to the capsize of his own yacht? I don't mean like collectively as part of a group of sailors. I mean, did he specifically have a major role in the capsizing and turtling of this yacht? Well, it certainly looks that way, but there are a lot of really messed up factors involved in the complete disaster that Ineos had today. So let's be clear, this is significant because it's the first time this type of yacht, albeit not an AC75, but this configuration of yacht has gone full turtle. But they do have masthead floats and weighted wings, which should be able to do most of the work in bringing the boat back upright and preventing a turtle. However, that's not the case with what happened to Ineos today, and they had a full capsize inversion. Fortunately, everyone is safe. No one's harmed. We haven't had any reports of any injuries, but the circumstances leading up to this capsize and why it was so disastrous for the boat make just for really interesting analysis. So first up, what made this capsize so different from previous capsizes? We've seen a few in this cup cycle already. I think pretty much every team which has been on the water has capsized. Emirates Team New Zealand a few times, and apart from when Emirates Team New Zealand crushed the bow, most of the capsizes have been relatively non-events. Basically, they've righted the boat and got back on with sailing pretty quickly. So what was different from this capsize? Ineos actually capsized just over a week ago on the 28th of Jan, and it was actually a pretty nice recovery, and they did go back in. It was near the end of the day, just check the systems over, but looked pretty plain. So what happened in this case which caused all the issues? First of all, we know from the description of the event from from the recon team and from Ben himself that the capsize happened in the first place because he had a systems failure, which meant they couldn't adjust the mainsail trim and the foils. So here they are. This is them recovering the boat after the first capsize today. The first thing you'll notice is this foil that's out the water is in its raised position. Now, every other team, when they are righting their boat, they revert to this this position where both foils are down. So this is American Magic, and what you want to do when you're righting your boat, you want to put both foils in the down position, which gives you maximum stability for when the boat pops back upright. Ineos's foil isn't down like it should be. So this points probably to the fact that they had an electronics issue when they slammed down, and that's probably why they haven't put this foil down. But I guess there should be questions as to why they don't have a failsafe which returns that foil to the down position. And this becomes significant when they right the boat, because this foil is then, it's a weighted foil, is then stretched out to port, which starts rolling the boat over to port. As we look at them righting, they've got one person on the bow, two people in here, one hanging onto the transom who is Ben Ainsley himself, and we'll get onto exactly what's going on there. But a really unorthodox righting of a boat, especially compared to their previous attempt. Now when the boat comes up right, it's broadly into the wind, but not quite. And you'll notice the mainsail is all the way over to the starboard side, but the bow is slightly off the wind to port. And what that means is the wind catches this sail coming over the starboard side of the boat, and because it's effectively sheeted up to windward, it's basically catching this sail and blowing the boat over. And that, coupled with the foil being stuck out in its out position, all of those factors are pushing the boat over, rolling the boat to port. Now the people on the boat are waving furiously for the towboat to pull them up, to pull the bow up into the wind, but you can see the boat is already rolling over. Now why is it rolling over this way and the main sheet isn't dropping down to leeward? Well, this comes back to Ben himself and what he's doing hanging off the back of the boat. Having someone hanging off the back of the boat during capsize recovery certainly isn't standard procedure, and we can see that from the previous time that Ineos capsize. You know, everyone's in the cockpits and they right it nicely. So why the hell have they got someone hanging onto the back of the boat? Well, to answer that question, we need to look at another video. Actually, let's jump back and look at a couple of photos. So this is the initial capsize. You can see this is Ben actually at the back of the boat. And what's he doing here? Well, this looks to be, in his right hand there, looks to be a blade. You can see he's got this blade up against the main sheet, which he's cutting through. Why would they be cutting the main sheet? Well, if they've had a electronics failure and they can't release any of these sheets, and if you look at this mainsail, it certainly looks flat and really hard sheeted on. If you look at the hydraulics, maybe they've just not got a way of releasing this main sheet, and they know if they bring the boat up with the main sheet sheeted fully on, then that's going to capsize them. So now that's not the only attachment point for the main sheet, and this becomes critical later. You'll see there's this other arrangement, which is basically like skirting lines for the main below where the main sheet actually attaches, just to keep the lower part of the sail in check. And that's on this small line, but it's attached with very small kind of bungees to the traveller as well. So that's the only bit that's really holding the main to this traveller. Actually ends up being reasonably important, this whole thing. And they do actually cut the jib sheet as well, so they're probably having similar difficulties there. You know, we've talked in previous video about their hydraulic jib sheeting system, and again, seems like that wasn't functioning, so they had to cut the jib sheet as well, so that when they righted the boat, the jib would just flap. Few things going on here that I want you to notice. First of all, mast rotation. So the mast is rotated slightly off to port, so that's putting the clue on the left hand side of the boat. And critically, Ineos, they have these arms, mass rotation arms, on their mainsail, which could be used to link it to the travelling movement, but they've not. At the moment, they're in a testing where they've just got these hydraulic rams straight to the front of the mast, which suggests if, like the other hydraulic rams, weren't functioning because the electronic control system had gone down, then maybe they couldn't change this mass rotation. This mass rotation is holding the sail. Now you'll see from this, Ben is holding on to this rope here. What does this rope done? Well, previous video we looked at the Ineos traveller system, and this rope that Ben has got in his left hand is the main sheet traveller. It's actually the take-up system on the starboard side, so he's got hold of that in his left hand. And I think the reason he's here holding on to this is probably for two reasons. So first of all, because their hydraulics aren't working, or the control systems aren't working, they can't pull this mainsail up into the middle of the boat. So Ben isn't able to get underneath the sail to get into the cockpit. That's maybe one reason. Another reason is because they can't trim the traveller. Maybe they've put Ben on this aft corner to hold on to that traveller and kind of manually trim it as they bring the boat upright. Now you would kind of want this mainsail to be down in the water so that as the wind gets underneath it, it kind of blows the rig upright a little bit like a windsurfing water start. If we look at the next video, which is the actual righting of the boat, we'll get the full story as to what's going on here. So yeah, again, note that this port foil arm is in the raised position, so that's going to want to roll the boat over to port as soon as it comes upright. Towboat starts to pull the boat to windward. You'll see here now the mainsail is out of the water, and actually holding the traveller down to starboard at this point is probably good, because that's going to want to lift the mast out the water like a windsurfing water start. Again, the boat comes upright, and instantly there are a few problems. First of all, the boat instantly starts heeling over to port. And why would this be? Well, there's a few reasons. First of all, that foil is out, fully extended to port, making the boat want to roll back over that way. The jib's flapping, that's fine. They've cut the jib sheet, so no issues with that. The mainsail itself is popped as if it was on port tack, but with the mass rotation system locked down, it's effectively pushing that sail over towards the starboard side of the boat, which is effectively kind of backing that sail into the wind and rolling the boat over to port. But one final crucial factor is you'll see that Ben is still hanging on to the back of the boat, and in the preceding scene we saw him holding on to the traveller system, and I think he's got hold of the slack in the traveller, and he's pulling that traveller up to the starboard side, which is backing that sail and causing the boat to roll over to port. You can see he's holding on to something. Again, I think it's the traveller he's actually got hold of, and that's pulling this sail up to the starboard side. He eventually lets go, and as he lets go, you can see the traveller drops down. So just watch that again. Watch him. He lets go, and then the slack is allowed back into the traveller system. But by this point, it's almost too late. The boat's already heeled over. It's heeling. That's Ben in the water. We cut back to the boat, and they're waving frantically for the chase boat to go round to the right, but it's carrying on heeling. Now, here, I think this is Giles. He tries to pull the sail towards him. So pull the sail over to then get wind underneath this this port side of the sail to push the boat back upright, but it's kind of too little too late. Also, I think the traveller system has kind of reached the end of the slack that Ben has now let go of. And critically, although they cut the main sheet, they didn't cut that main skirting system, so that is still holding on to the traveller. So Giles, although he's pulling the main frantically over towards him, it's still effectively connected at the bottom. He didn't cut through that line. Obviously, the jib's completely free, just flapping. You can see that other foil is in the down position, but this boat just goes right over, capsizing. So this mast rotation is still rotated over towards the starboard side of the boat. The Traveller's dropped down as far as it can, but it's only on the centre line. They should have really cut this kind of skirting line to the main sheet as well. And I'm not sure why someone's gone in the hatch at this point, but this just seems crazy dangerous. That someone's gone in the hatch when maybe the boat had been righted, but if we look, the hatch is on, and the boat captain there just undoes the hatch cover, presumably to go in, but I'm not sure. See there, he's got it open, he goes into the boat, and I'm not sure what he's hurrying down below to do. But when the boat's not fully secured and upright, it seems pretty crazy thing to be doing, to be undoing a hatch. And obviously as the boat then capsizes the other way, the hatch is actually clear of the water, so it's not initially a big issue. But I think when it starts turtling, that hatch being completely open probably becomes a significant issue. I mean, they're so lucky that everyone was safe, and there's got to be a lot of learnings from this for Minios and from the other teams. And here we are, the boat slowly going over Turtle. I just bring up this photo because it shows pretty clearly this configuration at the back, and again, this is after the main sheet's been cut, so this black ball here should be connected to there, but it's not, leaving the only connection, the skirting lines, which are still actually connected to the Traveller, albeit via a thin line. This here is the Traveller take-up system, which Ben was holding on to and was actually pulling the Traveller up to starboard with. And again, you can see the mast rotation system. Presumably these rams were locked off when the electronics failed after the initial crash, so they couldn't change this mast rotation system. But obviously if you've got a Traveller which is either over to starboard or centre, and you've got the mast rotated that way, then obviously it's quite a powerful situation to kind of back that mainsail and help tip the boat over. And that's a battery that's set on fire. So talking about ongoing from this damage, well, eventually the way they righted the boat after the second capsize was to cut the mainsail completely. So you can see here they cut at this point below, and then they cut all the way down the mast tracks, and then rolled up the mainsail. So these mainsails are just basically completely trashed to mainsail skins. All the electronics on the boat smashed up. And it's a massive shame because Ineos actually, January had their best month in terms of time on the water. They really struggled with this test platform and the technology to get it up and running in the in the last quarter of last year. But it felt like they turned the corner in 2023, getting a decent amount, I think the second highest amount of time on the water out of all the teams in January. And then this happened, so really unfortunate timing and unfortunate circumstances. Obviously the configuration in which they capsized when they lost control of the electronics kind of led to all the follow-on issues, but a substantial amount of damage in several areas to the boat. Thankfully, no one hurt. But yeah, really interesting. So let me know your thoughts on this. What can the other teams learn in terms of safety?
Okay, so that's Tom Morris, Mozzie Sails. He's a Brit, obviously. Mozzie Sails YouTube channel. And I think some very, very good points, very fine points. The analysis, I wouldn't agree 100% with some of the things he said, but nonetheless, until, we'll probably never know. The team's not going to come tell us what the whole deal was. But Julia, interesting analysis, interesting video, eh?
Yes, and I'm thinking about Stingray's last comment. which is my complete guess, is that the original failure point that led to the cascading disaster was the batteries cooking. They sailed hard for 4 hours, then loaded up on that last turn up.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we won't know, and it could be or it might be that the batteries didn't cook until after the fact. But I just want to say thanks to Tom Morris for letting us use this video. He was delighted that we were going to use it, and we're going to have a collaboration. We just traded some emails. Julie, you saw the email thread that we had overnight, and we'll get Tom on the show because I know he's doing some good work, and people do appreciate it. I think James Bland had, for me, Julie, the main comment, which was, this is a CF. This is a cluster, or what I used to call a fustercluck of magnificent proportion.
Yes.
I think they'll come out of this stronger. Thank God nobody was hurt. Not only the boat, whoever it was that was down in the front, the boat, I guess Tom Morris said it was the boat captain, but whoever went into the hatch and for whatever reason, no, I don't think he was getting somebody's phone. Is that what somebody said on one of the comments here? But luckily that guy didn't have a problem. Yeah, the boat almost did sink. I mean, it did fill up with water, and they had to get some buoyancy on it. We've seen that before with 12 meters with IACC boats. So it's not, it's not just a problem with these kinds of boats. But this is not correct. This is simply not correct. But I was worried when the boat capsized back onto the port side when it came up and then went over. Apparently, Tom thinks it was Giles Scott in the port trimmers.
Yeah.
In the hole, and there was somebody else forward of him, and the boat came over. Thank God those guys they were trapped under the main, but they swam out of there okay, and were not hurt. I think the batteries caught on fire later, Stingray, but I wouldn't know. Who would know? American Magic in Auckland, Steve Gruber saying, the only batteries that should be on sailing boats should be on the skipper's pacemaker. Graham Sweeney.
Oh, I think he gets that.
Is saying, yeah, well, my computer engineering background, Ed Worley saying, experience has taught me that you can never trust the computers and software. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you get this guy on every week? Probably not, David James, but we are going to do some collaboration. As I said, delighted that he came.
He was very good.
Yeah, indeed. Luca Craig saying, I wonder if in future, if teams adopt a procedure of attaching buoyancy to the end of the mast to stop the potential of boat going turtle, of course, need a quick release system, remove buoyancy once upright. Yeah, there's some stuff they got to work on. Okay, there's a lot of comments. David James has made some very interesting comments, Stingray too, and I'm not going to read them all. But Phil Walker, thanks, Phil, for joining us in your comments. This guy has some good points, but it is way hindsight being 20. Yeah, fair enough, 2020. It's a speed bump, not a train wreck. I agree with that as well. No Ineos project would get this far without having setbacks. Indeed, I don't think any America's Cup project worth its salt would have. Yeah. I mean, look, the Kiwis crashed and had the bow fell off their boat, and we know other teams. I mean, remember what happened to Luna Rosa last time when their boat broke up? Remember that, Julia?
Yes.
And they were training in Sardinia, and the boat came off a wave, and it had a big. Okay, thanks again, Tommy's signing off there at where that video wrapped up. Now, just to wrap this up with some fun. These guys, they're big. They're the men and women of this team are big, strong, smart people, and they'll come out of this okay. But one of our Fozy did this new AI thing, Julia, Chat GPT. Somebody, and I'll tell you who at the end of this, put into the AI, the thing that we kids are using to write term papers in school, said, hey, write me a story about how Sir Ben Ainsley had this accident and saved his team, heroically saved the team. And this is what it produced. In a dramatic turn of events in the world of America's Cup yachting, this is AI, again, artificial intelligence, Chat GPT. The British test boat T6 capsized and almost sank off the coast of Majorca today. The incident occurred during a routine training session and caught everyone by surprise. So far, so good. The boat was hit by a strong wave, well, not exactly, which caused it to capsize and put the lives of the crew members in grave danger. However, in a moment of bravery and quick thinking, the boat's captain, Sir Ben Ainsley, sprang into action and saved the crew from certain death by drowning. Sir Ben, who is a 4-time Olympic gold medalist and one of the most experienced sailors in the world, quickly assessed the situation and managed to get all the crew members to safety.
Oh, don't you love it?
Huh?
Yeah.
Again, this is not a Reuters report, as some people thought it was. The incident has shocked the yachting community and has sparked a wave of admiration for Sir Ben's heroism. Many are hailing him as a true hero and a role model for aspiring sailors everywhere. His quick thinking and bravery under pressure have been praised, and his actions are a testament to his experience and leadership skills. The boat, T6, is the test boat for Ineos Team UK, not quite, Ineos Britannia now, the British challenger for the 36th America's Cup. The boat was in Mallorca for a training session ahead of the main event, which is set to take place in 2024. Despite the incident, the team remains undaunted and is determined to continue its preparations for the America's Cup. In conclusion, the capsizing of the T6 and the bravery of Sir Ben Ainslie have once again highlighted the dangers and challenges of yachting, but also the bravery and quick thinking of its participants. The incident serves as a reminder of the importance of safety measures and the vital role played by experienced crew sailors like Sir Ben Ainslie in ensuring safety of the safety of the sailing crew. And there was more than that. It talked about the hungry sharks circling. Now, that is courtesy of our super Fozy Stingray. He's a computer nerd, retired Boeing engineer, too much time on his hands. He went to Chat GPT.
Oh, yes.
And I mean, for that AI,
That's very
that
good.
computer to come up with that article.
Yep.
And he asked them to highlight the heroicism, the heroics of Sir Ben Ainslie, and it did.
Uh-huh.
And then he put it up. Stingray put it up yesterday as a Reuters article. And for a while, including me, I thought it really was a Reuters article. And I look at the spin on this thing, but
Yes.
it was not. So a little bit of levity there at the end of that. Thanks, Stingray, our super Fozy, for doing that. We'll see if anybody has comments. AI has a narcissistic personality disorder, James Bland is saying. Yeah, you could say that again. Perhaps this computer was covering for the boat's computer. David Jane. Errol Flynn owned the Alden 74 Scirocco. I did not know that. So we've got Errol Flynn in there as a sailor. Isn't this the 37th? I'm so confused. Steve Gruber. Ben wrote that, Ted Ryman is saying. Yeah, it was funny. Okay.
Yes.
Dan Jaspers is just signing. Hello, Dan. Evening time. Apologies that I've been absent for a while. Super busy developing a couple of exciting projects which have taken up time. And welcome back, Dan. Nice to have you on here. Chris actually has made an interesting comment. This could implement a mechanical fail-safe system to make the foil arms go into max riding moment mode.
Yes, that's not a bad idea.
Ed Worley. Hal! Open the pod bay doors. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
What's that movie from?
2001.
And what was colon? A Space Odyssey.
Space Odyssey,
Right?
yeah.
Hal the computer. Okay.
How?
Okay, good fun. That gets us to, another segment.
We've had
Talking
a lot of
about
history.
what?
We had a lot of history today.
Well, it is our sports historic. And,
Yes.
Historic. We're all, at least you and I are old. You're not old. I'm old. 10th of February. What happened on this day in history on the 10th of February, Julia? In 1998, and it is indeed computer related. Here's your first and only clue.
Oh, Mac.
This gives me the heebie-jeebies just listen to this. How many times you'd listen to this, you weren't sure if you'd get connected or not,
Right.
and the modem's speed was going from whatever it started out at and finally got up to 56,000, and it maybe got to 128, and you'd have to change your modems, and you'd change them. Finally, over the years, but man, oh man, the idea that we would have, and this is 98, 3 years really after we all got on the internet, at least a lot of us did. And we had CompuServe originally. AOL had just bought CompuServe.
Yes.
So all of us that had been on CompuServe were now also AOL customers. And on this day in history, AOL, whose subscribers faced a barrage of busy signals when it had shifted to an unlimited use plan in December of 96, we're talking now about 98, said it is raising the fee to $21.95 a month. It was $19.95 to keep pace with the cost of the increased usage. The change takes effect in April. Our expanding membership and surging usage confirming that consumers want the content, services, and features and ease that are uniquely AOL. Well, it was uniquely a pain in the ass. And the idea, it was already well talked about then, we were understood you were going to have internet as like electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Internet
Yes.
coming into your house, it'd just come into the wall and you'd plug into it like you'd plug your toaster into the power system, into the power.
Yes. Now you just have to plug it into the cloud.
Well, you don't have to plug it into anything. It comes
I
in on
know.
your cable. It comes in if you on your TV, on your cable TV. It comes in now on your cell phone. In fact, I didn't tell you this the other day. They knocked on my front door here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. A couple of young guys said, "Hey, you know, we've got 5G here in the neighborhood. Your favorite Verizon 5G is hooked up.
Right.
You don't need cable anymore for your internet service. You just need our 5G." And I said, "Well, how fast is it?" And they said, "Well, it's really fast. It's 100 megabits a second down, and it's I said, "How fast up?" Because we're streaming. We got to have a good pipe up. Yeah, it was 10 or 12. I said, "Forget it. We're going to stick with the cable for now."
Yeah.
So it was on this day in history they raised the price, and I was freaking out. How can I can barely afford $19.95 a month. Now they're raising it, and God knows where it's going to go next. And the price hike, the AOL stock soared. Luckily, I had a little AOL stock because I was using AOL a lot, and it went up. I don't remember what it went up from, but apparently it went up $10 overnight, which is a big significance because they were going to have another $200 million of revenue, and AOL raised their monthly flat rate internet access from $19.95 to $21.95 on this day in 1998. How many years ago is that? 25 years ago today. Mm-hmm. Hard to believe how far we have come.
Oh, yes.
In 25 years.
Yes. Yeah. Now, I was just trying to think. I first went on AOL in 80.
No.
When I first
not before 95. AOL didn't happen. You first went on the internet.
Yeah.
But not AOL.
No.
Okay. What other comments are coming on here? That modem noise still freaks me out. Key punch machines. Yeah, I remember paper tape. And I used my dial-up with my work at HP. I was using a solid-state laptop for mail, etc. Punch cards, TTY, campus computers. That was in 1969. Yep. GE time sharing. Yeah, I was same age as Bill Gates when he was farting around with computers. I am about the same age as Bill Gates. I had a dial-up connection, 88. Yep, Gordon Smith. But I was scoring the yacht club scoring. I learned basic in high school. We were all taught basic, those of us that were reasonably bright kids going to college, and we had to take this computer class, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Learned basic, and then programmed how to score and the scoring system for our little home yacht club races. And used to go into a timeshare called Cybernetics. It was an Ann Arbor-based thing, and the guy who was the president was a member of the club, and I'd go in there on Sunday nights and score the races, sitting there forever, and I'd have to type on the computer to tell the guy back behind the glass, it was like the Wizard of Oz, tell the guy to mount the tape that would run our program, and oh, Jesus, now we can do that all on our calculators, on our phones, for God's sakes. This day in history, 98, 25 years ago, AOL raised their prices $2, and we thought the world was we didn't know if it was coming to an end or better. Mm-hmm. Let's just check in here with the ocean race, and they are headed, as you all know, to Cape Town. They're about 420 liters, 429. Well, I can show you. We're going to go look at that in more detail in a sec. 429 miles as they're headed down northeast up to Cape Town from the ice zone after skirting Brazil and going across in the trades, the westerlies down there. Mm-hmm. And let's go have a look at this nice race day video from today. Frustration on Team Elite as they lose the lead and find themselves once again racing boat for boat with 11th hour
I feel
race.
pressure. I can feel it as the boat starts to catch us up now. I can feel almost frustration, I would say. You know, wanting to stay in the front, but you know, we're going to do everything we can to stay in between the finish line and the other boat.
Speeds have dropped at the front of the fleet as the high-pressure system begins to dominate the thinking.
True fashion. What looked like a relatively simple race down to the
There's Simon.
down at the ice gates. Kind of got a little bit more confusing with the latest weather
Simon
model.
Fisher. Once again, there is no clear leader. There will be opportunities for Biotherm and Geo Environment. Yeah, right. Team Europe to find a way back into the race. We'll see. I doubt that.
Well, the wind can be fickle.
Well, it's going to be fickle. They're sailing into a light air patch now. The leaders.
It's a fast swell from southwest, and it's fun to surf that swell. So if you're on the back of a long wave, you go really fast.
Complicated weather conditions will dominate the next 48 hours in the final section of this complex and challenging leg into Cape Town. Today's race report from the Ocean Race. 11th Hour Racing has regained the lead by, if you can see there at the bottom, by 2.6 nautical miles. And just behind them is Wholesome PRB. They're 4 miles back of 11th Hour Racing, the leader. Biotherm still in the hunt. They're 17 miles and change back. But Geo Environment Team Europe is 167 miles. That's that first column there on the left, DTL, distance to leader. And then if you go, you know, they're making 14, 15 knots, and Geo Environment's going 23 knots, the speed. But then if you go way over to the right, the distance to finish, that's now just over 400 nautical miles for 11th Hour Racing, 430 miles for Team Elitzia. So it's going to be a bit of a battle going the rest of the way. I guess they expect to be in there, 48 hours, so on Sunday sometime. It's UTC now. It is 22:33 on Friday. So if it's another 48 hours, late Sunday night, it looks like, something like that they'll get into Cape Town and see Ted Ryman and co. That's the latest on the Ocean Race. They're headed for beautiful Cape Town.
Isn't that gorgeous?
It is gorgeous. I love that town, and I wish I were there with you, Ted. This is a start from either 4 or 8 years ago. We're not sure, but in obviously Cape Town, and the fleet restarts for that third leg from Cape Town around to Itajaí in Brazil on the 26th of February. Start of the leg 3. So that's the latest on the Ocean Race, formerly the Volvo Ocean Race, but now with no sponsor, it is simply the Ocean Race. We'll catch you up now in the America's Cup. There was a so-so video from Luna Rosa I'm not going to stick in the show. But I will show you this christening video from Emirates Team New Zealand that took place yesterday. They've commissioned their second AC-40, Te Kakahi, which the Kiwis say means orca, and other people say it means killer whale. Have a look.
I name this boat Te Kakahi. I bless her and all those who sail on her.
Ngāti Whātua Aoraki, that was just amazing. And they're actually a big highlight for the organisation as we name each of the boats in the series as we go along. So another brick in the wall towards the next defence. as it's turned out, we've been able to put them into Youth America's Cup, and particularly Women's America's Cup, and they're well suited for that. The younger generation are good and they're fast.
We're christening Te Kākahi, and it's going to be awesome to get out there. It's our second AC40 here at Emirates Team New Zealand. This one will stay in a one design configuration, and it's used to upskill our current team members and building into bringing the youth and the women's teams through that. And as we evolve, we'll continue to race and build our sailing team.
In the last year, we've had two functions. The first was to thank the squadron. The second is tonight to thank not only the suppliers and the sponsors that have, through thick and thin, been with us, but the families, because they're unsung, and we appreciate the fact that nothing comes easy, that for a team like this to be successful, it needs the support of the families.
Excuse me, I use my cough switch here, Julia. I'm not pronouncing that right. They're pronouncing it, I guess, with another syllable than what it looks like, Kakakai or something.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'll try to get that pronunciation sorted out, but it looks like they had another nice, simple christening ceremony there, and Bravo Zulu to them. Back on computers, Clark Chapin saying, remember when we used CompuServe to bludgeon the inshore committee? Yeah. Well, it was interesting because we had a couple people in the sport, Julia, who were early computer gurus and not DARPA type email people, but were on CompuServe, which was the first kind of public email system. So we all got on to CompuServe, everybody in U.S. Sailing, and then we got everybody in what was then iWire, it's a USYRU, and then iWireU. We had a couple seminars and taught everybody how to do it.
Yeah.
Various experts came in and gave forums, and Paul Henderson paid himself. He was president then of iWireU to get he said, this is the future. We got to be on the internet. We got to have email. And CompuServe, this is before you could have alpha. You only had numbers. You had 101 point something. I can't remember my CompuServe email address, but it worked, and it was fabulous. And then in '95, Dennis Conner, I was with his team in '95, had HP, I think it was, as a computer sponsor, Hewlett Packard. And as part of that deal, we each got, at least the senior people on the team got an HP laptop so we could communicate. Fabulous. And those stick-in modem cards and everything. And when we left the team, and because Dennis was, famously frugal. Yeah. And Dennis said, you guys can keep your computers. He knew full well they were already obsolete. Yeah. You keep your computers. And that was, it was a marvelous gesture, I thought. Yes. And they were, it was a little laptop about this thick, but, it worked. Yeah. Plug it in. It was great stuff. James Frederick Bland. No. Anybody else ever use a telex? Yes, James. Yes, when I got to USYRU as executive director in '79, the first thing I did was to have a telex installed so we could send telexes to various people.
Yeah, you had to during international business. You had to.
Exactly. I think it's debatable if we're better off or not, James Bland is saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Julia keeps saying, stop texting me, call me. And she's right. You got to get on the phone and call people. I'm trying to do that more.
It's so much easier.
Clark Chapin, latest tracker. Yeah, we're talking about trackers. I think we've covered that. Don't get that champagne on the batteries. Clark is saying, when I was Secretary of U.S. Sailing in 1997, I still had 2 ExCom members out of 15 that had to fax the draft. I had to fax the draft. Oh, yeah, faxing continues. I mean, the German banking system, Julia, to this day, you got to fax to them, right?
Yeah,
they want a signature. They don't want facsimiles of your signatures.
Yeah, I still use my fax internationally.
Well, that's because you're an important person.
I am. Oh, gosh, yes.
Those of us who are not so important. That gets us to the D block here almost, and our last leg. We got a fabulous WTF today, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I just got a couple other fun FOSI focuses today. Clark Chapin is on here, and I ask all of you if this video, which I call Gatorade, is correct or crutonic under the racing rules. RC radio controlled boats, that's a gator or a croc, I guess it's a gator. He's pushing the boat into the lead, believe it or not. I mean, doing a magnificent job of it.
Yes.
I wonder if it's a trained alligator. Alligator, I don't know if they are toying with it. It tries to take a bite out of the transom.
Yeah.
Whoever's driving the boat is doing a loop. Maybe they're taking a not a 720. Maybe they're taking a single loop, a 360 as a penalty. How did they train the gator? Training gators illegal, Ted Ryman says. But that boat's in the lead now. They've gone from RC Alligator. Well, maybe they're not completely in the lead. I ask you, is that correct?
Of course.
Or Crutonic?
Absolutely correct.
Huh? Look at this. There's the gator and a screen grab. Look at the steely eyes of that gator. Is that legal or not, Julia?
Of course.
You think?
Absolutely.
Why? And Clark Chapin is saying, yeah, it's fun. Do haters have batteries? As long as the owner didn't hang a slab of bacon onto the transom, I can't think of a rule. Not Clark, not outside assistance? That's hilarious. What did the RSS say about I don't know. Stingray, RC Alligator, maybe it's just Gatorade. I don't know what else to call it except Gatorade.
Yeah.
Clark Chapin, you really force majeure, you think correctly funny. Jamie Hutchison, I agree. If that happened in a race that I was in, I would go, we'd celebrate the guy that got the push and go buy him a drink and give him a prize. Gatorade, you're the jury, correct or Crutonic? Well, most of you think, don't be a Gator hater, Ted Ryman is saying. Looks like a crazy Ivan took care of that problem. Nature, I think the guy took a penalty there at the end. Took a 360 anyway, or nearly so. Crazy Ivan. Remember that from what movie that was, Julia?
No, I don't.
My favorite movie of all time. I'll bet you it's James Bland's favorite movie. He'll tell you what movie that was from.
I have no idea.
The Hunt.
The
for
Hunt?
Red October. Oh. Crazy Ivan.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've seen the movie, but it is not one of my favorites.
Oh, gosh. Sean Connery, fabulous movie.
Well, Sean Connery is something else.
Okay, The Hunt for Red October. Gordon Smith knew it. Jamie Hutchison knew it. Eat more gator. Pete Carrico is saying we got another Fozzie Focus here. And it is about cool people, as you know. And these are three cool people without doubt. You know who that is? Whoever can name this, we got a special prize.
That's got to be Jody.
Jody is on here. He's saying messenger video, chat live from the lake. That is Jody in the foreground. As you can see Wanji on his shirt sleeve. They're sailing Jody's etchels called Three Blind Mice. That's the name of his etchels. Name these three infamous sailors in Australia for a pre-Olympic training camp in 2012. James Bland saying, those crazy Ivans are for real. Yes, I know they at least were for real. Shake off the sub that's trailing you in the baffles. Three blind mice. So who are the other two sailors there in addition to Jody? Can anybody name them? And if so, Jody says, when I asked him, how do I use this photo? He says, you could have a guessing game. If anyone gets all three names, they win a go on the Ineos LEQ12. Bring your own snorkel. You got to laugh.
Yes.
Julie Aaron says Blake and Pete. No. Julie, close. No cigar, Julie. No snorkel. Anybody else know who that is? I thought Jody's boat was called Cirrhosis of the River.
Oh, that's good.
Maura Stevens. One looks like they are drinking lemon squash solo. Mm-hmm. Anybody know who they are?
I don't. I keep thinking the guy
in the middle is, I'll give you another clue, he's Irish. I didn't know who it was either. I had to ask Jody who it was. Pedro Foiling Sailor, he's drinking soda. Playing they do them all. We do them all the time on the J111. Well, there they are. One looks like Peter Burling. Yes, that is young Pete Burling, 11 years ago?
Mm. On the far right.
On the far right. He's actually forward. I think Jody's driving. The guy in the middle, that's Pete Burling in the front. The guy in the middle is an Irish lad and a former Olympian, two-time Olympian, in fact. Jody, I can't really go live at this point. I'd love to go live with you, but let's get you on. Josh Maloney, Julia saying no. Jody, how would I go live with you? On Skype or on what? No, I can't, Jody. I'm technically challenged here to go live, so thank you for the offer.
I read it. Would you? Do you want to go live with me?
No, I think he wants to live.
I know.
Oh, do you want to go live with me, Tom? I love you, Jody, but you're not my type. You're not my type. That is Matt McGovern from Ireland. Pete in the front, Matt in the middle, and Jody, and we'll get Jody to regale us with this. This was a funny thing. They were there training, and apparently it was hot as hell, and they were there for Nate Outridge's birthday, and the two guys up in the front were living in a caravan that had no aircon, and they were cooking. Cooking in the caravan in the middle of the summer in Oz. Now, here is one more picture that Jody has not seen. They shrimped their kite, and it had to be picked up out of the water here. I don't know if that's the Royal Navy, but it's the Jody's support team pulling their kite out of there in the water. Surprise guest live with Jody Shields. Can you believe that they lost their kite? Do you believe it? Jody, sure. Do you believe it? Is this your support team retrieving their kite? It's not. But every time I see one of these pictures, and I'll tell you what it is in a minute, I think of all the times we've watched support teams pull kites out of the water at the leeward marker, leeward gate, below the leeward marker gate. Thierry de Jong's got it. Baton Rouge has got it. It's the balloon. It's the U.S. Navy retrieving the CCP's ostensible spy balloon. And I keep seeing these photos, and they give me the willies again. It's like hearing that AOL, that modem, the sign-on modem sound. It is the retrieval of that balloon, and there's some superstructure. This one, though, it really does just look like a kite and a team. So, no, that is not. There's no truth to the rumor that Jody and Pete and Matt lost their kite that day, and it had to be retrieved by their support team. Joe Holtzman's got it. Looks like the Chinese balloon. That's the PRC spy balloon. Yep, Chris actually.
That's good to know.
Okay, well, that's it. Oh, except we have some funnies today. I couldn't help it, and there are a bunch of them. So many got submitted. Yeah, Gordon Smith saying another has just been shot down in Alaska. I saw as we were going to air that the White House proudly announced that this time they weren't going to wait for the balloon, Julia, to fly across the U.S. before they shot it down. But it's not clear where this one came from, or at least it hadn't been. It's a weather balloon. Okay, well, speaking of balloons, we have a few. They came in.
Yeah.
Did I play this one on Tuesday's show?
I've seen it. I don't know if
I don't think, maybe we did, but oh, great. Here comes another spy balloon, obviously from Germany.
Yeah.
Graham Sweeney sent that one in, and we've seen it. But wait, there's more. Did you see this one?
No.
New Zealand unveils their spy balloon.
Yeah. That's lovely.
And not to be outdone, this is a spy balloon above Australia right now.
Lovely.
And I don't know, Clark Chapin, don't be offended by this or anybody else from Michigan, but there's no truth to the rumor that the Chinese Communist Party released their first photo from the balloon over our home state of Michigan. Don't you think that's funny, Julia?
Yes.
And here's now what we're doing, at least in this country. You know, they didn't know whether to use the guns or the missiles. Let me guess, another weather balloon research that's been drifting around for years. Let's start a war over it, Stingray is saying. That's bad. Yeah, I think I played that first one on Tuesday, Julie Aarons is saying, but I couldn't resist sticking it back in again. So now this one came from Hamish Ross. I'm sorry, I think it's hilarious. I don't think it's ethnically difficult at all. The Wright brothers fly over the Carolinas in 1903. The Wong brothers fly over the Carolinas in 2023. That's okay, isn't it?
It depends on who you are.
Come on, you got to be able to laugh. If I were Chinese, I would think that was funny, just like I thought that was funny about the Michigan.
Right.
Be flying over. You got to have a sense of humor. Thanks, Hamish Ross sent that.
Yes.
Is that a little Air Force prick? James Frederick Bland, who's, of course, a Navy guy.
Yes.
Thanks, Hamish, for that one. Now some regular, in order to make an appointment, talking about AOL, what we now go through, Julia, this reminds me of you would dedicate this to you. In order to make an appointment, he first had to update his operating system, download an app, get a username, choose a password, log into a health portal, navigate to messages, and write his doctor by then. It was too late.
Oh, yes.
That's Peter Taylor sent that from New York City. Thank you, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you have to be clever to get this one. You got it? Out. I'll be damned. Get it? Who gets this first? This is really clever. This was sent by Jim Palmer down in SoCal. You got it out.
Oh, damn spot.
I'll be you got it, Julia.
Yeah.
Macbeth Cleaners. Hey, no foiling. Tom,
Mm-hmm.
you got your switch front and center, Julia. Tom, you are starting to develop an Aussie sense of humor. Welcome aboard. Definitely politically incorrect. Out, damn spot. Chris actually gets it.
Yeah.
Well done, Julia. Jim Palmer. Now this one came from an Aussie. Trespassers will be headbutted. That's a sign of the times.
Yes.
Sadly. Thanks to Alistair Murray for this sign of the times, because it's just unbelievable. Even kids 20, 30 years ago couldn't spell. I was because I was a nerd, was a champion spelling bee champ in middle school.
Yeah.
I spent too much time. In fact, Julia, I remember laying in the bathtub going through the list of words when I was in 4th or 5th grade trying to spell. I won the regional or something and went to the state. Crapped out. Man, maybe I did go to the state. There may have been a hockey game or something that interfered. Now this, you could guess who sent this one in.
Jody.
Nope, close. That's from Ted Ryman. I had to wrap with this. And that's when I knew she was the one. Gordon Smith, the perfect girlfriend. Thanks, Ted Ryman, for that. And finally, since this is the drinking show of the Sailing Habit, I suggest we drink before we go out drinking.
Yes.
Ed Worley sent that. Only 5 beers, should have been 7 or 9 in that previous one. Huh?
Yes.
Where is that? I got to go back that up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that.
David James says, the thought of you in the bathtub will haunt me for a long time.
Yeah, it probably will. But I got to go back to that one. 1, 2. I hate taking baths too, Julia. I come out of the bath feeling dirtier than when I went in, knowing what's on my body probably when I went in. I hate taking baths. I have to shower. After you take a bath, I have to shower. Yeah, she should be carrying what? Oh, she got 1? How many in there? Okay, forget about that. I suggest we drink before we go drinking. Thanks again, Ed Worley, for that. Gets us to the finish line. And an hour and 53 minutes in, it's about time. Julia?
Yes. This is the opportunity to like, follow, and share it, and you should have done it at the beginning of the program.
Yeah, and thanks for doing it now if you didn't. A couple other comments. Steve Gruber, the perfect girl can carry 11, 10 finger and teeth. Siri does not even know what I am saying. Hey, Ken, I hope you're doing better with your COVID. He'd had a bout, I know. I know Bill the cook had a bout. I hope Bill Cook is doing better. Chris, actually a drinking show with a sailing problem. Yes, indeed. That is the case. And also, we hope you'll support us. If you're not already, and many of you are, become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated to help keep us on the air with a few bucks a month. We appreciate it. Julia, last thoughts?
No, it's nice we've had a big uptick in viewers because we've had some different shows on, and that's nice.
And we're going to have a nice one next Tuesday because, and thanks to everybody who gave us audio, video, and images for today's show, because next Tuesday we are going to have the king of the ice boats on again. And I don't know him. Well, I've met him, but I don't know him. And we've talked now on the phone a couple times. Ron Sherry, he is the real deal. He is the ice boating guru, not just because he's from Michigan, but he's the guru. I hope you can join us for that show next Tuesday. When Ron Sherry will be live via Skype from Michigan.
Great.
Julia, have a great rest of your week. And everybody else, we'll see you on Tuesday. In the meantime,
Happy Super Bowl.
Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Hope you enjoy that. And if you go sailing, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.